BRASH Sports Podcast brought to you by Stopping the Microwave with 1 second left. A time bomb ticks away in the kitchen. A Salisbury steak slowly turns in anticipation. Are you going to step up to the plate and stop the microwave before the timer goes off? Or are you going to let it beep in your ear like a little bitch? The choice is clear. Put on your big boy bomb squad pants and shut that shit down. The studies are conclusive. Everybody does it, and so should you. So the next time you heroically disarm a pesky timer, be sure to use promo code BRASH1 to save yourself the embarrassment. Stopping the microwave with 1 second left. The most fun you can have in the kitchen with your pants on. What's up, B? I'm so glad that Stopping the Microwave with 1 second left is our sponsor this week because I literally did it this morning. And it's always so much fun. I'm glad they finally, bought a little ad space with us.
It's funny. I'm, of course, thrilled that they're our sponsor for our 22nd episode of our second season. But at the same time, I'm not a stop the microwave at 1 second kind of guy, to be honest with you.
Really?
In my older years, I'm now the guy that, like, when I get that microwave going, I step out of the kitchen. I just want to get as far away
Wow.
I don't know why. I just have a feeling like there's microwaves, spewing out of it. And I even wait for the 4 beeps when it's done before I open the door. I don't know. I think way too much into it.
That is odd. You're definitely, the studies are conclusive, like I said in the spot. Everybody does it. So you must be just one of the outliers. Yeah, you're one of the outliers.
There you go.
Worried about microwaves. But anyway, enough microwave talk. We have so much NFL to get into after a very busy divisional round weekend and conference championships coming up. So we got to recap. We got to make some picks. We got to go through our brackets again, see where we stand. So let's dive right in, B.
Yeah, buddy. We got just a few headlines just to knock out here real quick. Things to note that happened throughout this past week. First of which would be the Carolina Panthers. They have hired a new head man, Frank Reich. Now gets the nod there in Carolina. And I found this out when I was putting our hit list together that he was actually their first starting quarterback in 1995. It's crazy.
Yeah, I thought Kerry Collins was their first quarterback because he went to the Giants after the Panthers. And so when I saw that too, they were talking about it like on ESPN or something. They're like, oh, serendipity. And I thought it was cool. I had no idea. I didn't even know he was a quarterback at any point in his life. So good to know. Good stuff to know.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He agreed to a 4-year deal. It's expected to be finalized on Monday, Josh. And with the Indianapolis Colts, he finished with a record of 40-33-1. That was with his 4+ seasons with Indy. So hey, we'll see. I mean, a lot from what I've heard from all the pundits out there, it was a good move by the Panthers, and they had actually also interviewed Sean Payton, right, before making the move. So who knows how that transpired, if he was even offered a deal or they just simply couldn't afford him. But who knows? You know what? Real quick with the Sean Payton thing, because he's like the hottest name right now.
Everybody's talking about him.
It's, watch him come back season or next off season and just really not be that good. I think he's a good head coach, but everybody acts like, you get Sean Payton in the door and you're immediately a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah. You know how like Tom Brady left New England and Bill Belichick were starting to be like, he's a good coach, but is he really the GOAT? Because Tom Brady seems to have carried a lot of that. Is it the same with Drew Brees and Sean Payton? I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
This is true. And Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. There's another one for you. Speaking of Dallas and Mike McCarthy.
I was going to say, that's starting to swing the other way, I think. I'm way higher on Mike McCarthy now and low on Aaron Rodgers than I was when the breakup happened. But anyway,
I suppose. I think a lot of Dallas's success this season can be contributed to their play on the defensive side of the ball. And luckily for them, Dan Quinn is staying put, Josh. He is not going anywhere for the second consecutive year. He has decided to pass up head coaching gigs and remain in Dallas as their defensive coordinator. He interviewed with the Broncos, the Cardinals, and the Colts, and said, Quinn, there's unfinished business here in Dallas. My complete focus is helping the team play championship ball in 2023. So he's still a bit delusional with the whole championship ball talk when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, but who knows what really transpired there? It may have been Jerry Jones sat him down, had a little chat, and said, "Hey, look, if things don't go according to plan next year, you're kind of next in line for that head coaching role in Dallas, and maybe that's what he really wants."
That is very possible. I definitely think that might have something to do with it. Also, I mean, he was a head coach in Atlanta for years. He got him to the Super Bowl that they epically lost to the Patriots, the 28-3 bowl. So I don't know. He might just look at it and be like, head coaching kind of sucks. Like, it's kind of nice being a coordinator and having the pressure taken off you.
Right? Yeah. And you're kicking ass as a coordinator. Right. So you're like, well, it's not my fault. And what a great feeling that would be, whether you're an offensive or defensive coordinator, say, hey, I'm doing my job over here.
Nobody's pointing the finger at Dan Quinn for the Cowboys' failures.
And I'm surprised Kellen Moore hasn't gotten the boot yet. I thought he would be the guy, the scapegoat. If they're going to keep Mike McCarthy around, they'd say, all right, we're not going to get rid of McCarthy. We're not going to get rid of Dak. So I guess we have to get rid of Kellen Moore because that was the trend 2 weeks ago. Everybody just getting rid of their coordinators if they didn't want to get rid of their head coach.
Very true.
Travis Kelce, Josh, he is questionable for tomorrow's game against Cincinnati. They're saying the Chiefs might be out without Travis Kelce for the AFC Championship game. You and I strongly believe we will see him play because, they had a one-legged Mahomes out there last week, so I just don't see them. I mean, who's the backup tight end in Kansas City? Do they have one? Maybe not. Idea. But he was a full participant in Friday's practice. He was a late addition to their injury report. Again, listed as questionable, and it is due to a back injury. But they didn't provide any more specifics on that. They just said it was a back issue. And, this season alone, he's been responsible for 1,338 yards and a career-high 12 touchdowns. This is his 9th season with the Chiefs, and alone he finished with 98 yards and 2 touchdowns on 14 catches. So obviously we know what he means to those Kansas City Chiefs. If he can't go, lock it up. Chiefs got no fucking chance because they already have a hobbled Mahomes, and you can see, the line is changing throughout the week. Trending in the Bengals' favor.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's playing regardless, and I think that he's going to be on the field a lot. He could just be a decoy out there, and I think that's still a huge advantage to them because he's a guy that gets so much attention from the defense. You can get Juju open more or more, running back screens, whatever. And yeah, it's a shame that they're so banged up because obviously I picked them to win the damn Super Bowl, and now I'm nervous about this game just because the Bengals kind of own them and they're really hobbled. So they're two best players right now are hobbling out there, and it's going to be really tough to beat Cincinnati not at full strength. So we'll see. We'll get there, though. We'll get there.
When we filled out our playoff brackets in our lost episode, you had the Kansas City Chiefs versus the San Francisco 49ers in the big game. So
my Final Four, by the way, Final Four correct. So great time to lose. Great time to lose an episode when I actually make some decent picks.
Sorry, buddy. That's again, chalk it up. That was a Brandon mistake, Brandon error.
It's all good. All good.
So let's run through these divisional round matchups that occurred last weekend. We'll get things started off with those Kansas City with the Jacksonville Jaguars 27-20. as mentioned, Mahomes did injure that. What was it? His right ankle.
Yes.
But didn't matter. The Chiefs were able to hang on to reach the AFC title game. Jags, they did have an opportunity, man. Of course, everybody was watching this game, but you and I had the over and in our parlay. That didn't work out too well, but they had an opportunity to make it a 3-point game late in the fourth quarter. They were driving down the field. All of a sudden, things were clicking for that Jaguars offense. But Jamal Agnew, never forget, he fumbled at the Kansas City 3-yard line. Actually, I put 3-yard line on the hit list. I think it was actually the 6-yard line. So shame on me. But still, right there in the 10. I thought for sure they were going to score a touchdown, make it a 3-point game. We were about to get that over,
Yep.
and it just wasn't meant to be, unfortunately, for Agnew and the Jags. Trevor Lawrence did throw an interception on the following possession with only 4 minutes remaining in the game, which pretty much sealed it. And the Chiefs now, they reached the AFC Championship game for the 5th straight season. Are you fucking kidding me? Must be nice.
So not only did they reach it, they're hosting it for the 5th straight time, which is just
Well, I thought there was
insane.
one of the 4 or one of the 5 that they didn't.
No,
I have to look.
I think they host. I think this is their 5th in a row hosting.
Okay, all
I
right,
think. Pretty
okay.
sure. Maybe not totally sure, but 87% confidence. Anyway, yeah, it was a great game. Uh, we talked a little bit after the game, and I brought up the fact that the Jags are getting Calvin Ridley next season.
Yep, yep.
They're going to be so dangerous. And that was such a great trade, and a trade nobody was talking about, that kind of flew under the radar. Now they're going to get a true number one wide receiver. They're going to have Christian Kirk in the slot still. Evan Engram, of course. You leave the Giants as a playmaker, you're going to go make plays somewhere else. So Evan Engram's been great, and Trevor Lawrence continues to improve every single game. The fact that they kept this one close, Kansas City off a bye, is unbelievably good. So the fact that Jacksonville covered the spread and kept it a game is so impressive. And I'm proud of those boys, and I expect big things from them next year.
Tremendous season for the Jags as a whole. Nothing to hang their head about. And same could be said for your New York Football Giants. I know things ended on a bit of a sour note. They lost to the Philadelphia Eagles 38-7 in their game. That miracle flight comes to a crash landing in Philly. But again, not a whole lot to pick on. I mean, nobody had the Giants making it to the divisional round. So just a lot to look forward to as a New York Giants fan. And, it was really just the Eagles did what the Eagles do, man. Their defense is legit. They held their own at home, and they never let the Giants just work out their game plan and get
No.
anything going. And they got most of their production on the ground. They rushed for a total of 268 yards, the Eagles did. And it was a lot of that was contributed to Kenneth Gainwell's production. I mean, this guy, I'll be honest, I really wasn't keeping a close eye on Kenneth Gainwell, but on only 12 carries, he finished with 112 yards and a score. So he had a pretty good showing. And, the Eagles, they look fucking dangerous. They were my NFC pick back in like week 6. It doesn't really come as a surprise that they're in the NFC Championship game. I am a bit surprised that they just completely blew the Giants out of the water. But again, whatever, right? I mean, I know
Yeah.
you picked the Giants in this one. I do feel like you were picking with your heart a little bit.
100%. Of course. Yeah. Of course I was picking with my heart. My heart did break on Sunday. I'm wearing black in respect to the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Rest in peace to a hell of a year. Like I said, we were playing with house money. It was a free game. No one expected us to be here. So, I think the most encouraging thing is we found our head coach of the future. I hope we keep Dable for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Hope he retires a Giant as an old man. Um, Yeah, it was a great year. Philly, I thought there'd be a little rust because a lot of times you see that, right? Like into the playoffs, that number one seed, or back in the day, the two seed that would get that bye would come out and start a little slow. And you didn't see that with the Eagles. They came out with a phenomenal game plan.
Yeah.
They knew what we were trying to do before we did it. Uh, they were our defense was gassed. I think, 5 out of 6 road games finally caught up to us, and we just looked tired. We looked complacent. It almost looked like when the Eagles jumped out to that early lead, I think it was 21-0. We were just like, okay, yeah, it's our time. We'll just lay down. Like, well, let's just get this thing over with. Like, it was a good ride, but who are we kidding? But, you know, again, hell of a season. Beyond excited to get to where we got. And I think the future's pretty bright for the Giants. So, I'm encouraged, right? I did not shed a single tear um that day. It sucks getting blown out, but
Yeah.
I cannot be upset with what we did this year.
Yeah. No, absolutely not, man. I mean, I I would have been thrilled if the Redskins made it that far, but
Well, yeah.
of course they didn't. The Cincinnati Bengals, they're headed to the AFC Championship game after beating the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. This one, it was a snowy one in Buffalo. 27-10 was your final there. Um, Burrow, he was shining bright. Allen, on the other hand, looked completely flustered the entire game. This is the second consecutive AFC Championship game appearance for the Cincinnati Bengals. And, it never felt like a real competitive game. I mean, the Bengals, they took control early and they didn't let up. They kept the foot on the gas. Frankly, I think they took it easy eventually on the Bills. I think they could have run the score up a little bit more if they really wanted to. They started playing a bit more conservative, or choosing a bit more conservative play calling, whatever. They weren't out
Sure.
there for blood in the second half. It looked like, because they kind of figured they got this. Just keep doing the routine, and just work that clock, and eventually they did get the win when all was said and done. And Joe Cool, man, he was cool indeed. Finished the day 23 of 36, 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. The Bengals didn't turn the ball over a single time in this one. So hats off to Cincinnati. I really hope they make it to the Super Bowl. I really hope they win it all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what I noticed, the biggest thing that stuck out to me was the Bills on offense looked lost. And it looked like they were playing calls like someone playing Madden for the
Mhm.
first time. Like they were just like, well, here's a play. Let's just try it. There's no rhythm to their offense at all. And I think it's a huge issue for them because they could get away with it against worse teams just by letting Josh Allen go out there and fucking take over a game. But when it comes down to it and it's playoff time and teams are taking very seriously and you're playing really good teams, you can't just get away with that anymore. And I think a lot of that has to do with Sean McDermott. And I think he's on the hot seat after this year. Um, or after next year, I should say. He'll get another shot at it. But to be a defensive coach and to let another team just run it up on you in the snow, like Cincinnati was down 3 offensive linemen, and Joe Burrow had all day to throw. You're a defensive coach. You cannot let that happen. And if your offense struggles, that's fine. You should be holding Cincinnati to, 13, 17 points in the snow, down 3 offensive linemen, and you should be able to put up 20 points with Josh Allen in the snow. But they never got a rhythm going. It was third and short, and they're throwing it over the top every time. Like it
Yeah.
just, I couldn't figure it out. It reminded me a lot of the Chargers, right, where they just never look like they get into a rhythm. And you look at all these teams left, the 4 teams that are remaining, their offenses have rhythm. It doesn't look like they're just calling plays for the sake of calling plays. They are getting into a groove and moving the ball uh, with authority and just not, again,
It's true.
picking a play call just to do it. So everything has a purpose with the teams that are left, and I mean I can say confidently that the four teams that are left are the four best teams in the NFL, right? Nobody
Does
has
appear
snuck
so.
through. So that's good to see because the this weekend's games are going to be fucking amazing.
They will. I'm hoping that that injury to Mahomes doesn't take too much out of the Chiefs play calling. But I have a feeling that they're going to shoot him up with something, and he'll be doing everything he can to look like Mahomes of the regular season, right?
Also, it's Andy Reid, so you know he's going to have some shit up his sleeves,
They
right?
will. Yeah.
He knows what he's working with, and he can scheme as well as any coach in the league. So Mahomes on one leg, I'm not that way. But we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Let's knock out the last of our four divisional round games, and it was the San Francisco 49ers getting the win over the Dallas Cowboys. Thank God. I'm so happy the Cowboys are knocked out. Um, the Cowboys defense, though, man, they did everything they possibly could. I think they had a fantastic game plan. We mentioned it earlier with Dan Quinn, and he had his guys ready to go. But the Dallas offense just looked flat all day. Didn't mention it in our hit list, but Tony Pollard, dude, the only Cowboy I like, broke his fucking leg. That was hard to see. That was a bummer. The last game of the season. Um, and it's never good seeing a guy crying when he's getting carted off the field. So once they lost Pollard, it was
Yeah.
pretty much sealed that fuck, they're not gonna be able to do anything. They're gonna have to put this all on Dak's shoulders. But they weren't able to do it. And he threw two picks on the day, but Brock Purdy, he avoided turning the ball over a single time. He's still, he's very cool, calm, collected, that guy, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't let the pressure get to him. And I mean, obviously there was heavy defensive pressure from that Dallas D line getting to him throughout the day. They were, very creative in how they schemed against Brock Purdy. I think that's the Eagles will be watching a lot of that film to see what Dallas was able to do to slow down that 49ers offense, because Kyle Shanahan, dude, he's pretty creative himself, and they usually have no problem just slicing, through the field like hot knife through butter. But not in this game. It was tight throughout. But again, Dallas only scoring 12 points. You're not going to win and advance with only 12 points. George Kittle, he was the one that saved the day with that circus catch late in the fourth
So
quarter.
good.
Unbelievable. And he finished the day with 5 receptions for 95 yards. So, like you said, the remaining 4 teams, hands down, the best 4, the top 4 in the NFL. And Dallas didn't deserve to be in the NFC Championship game, and they proved it on Sunday.
Well, and something that I brought up that I stole from somebody else was they pointed out Dak hasn't had back-to-back good games all season long, right? And it rang true again this past weekend because in the wild card opener he looked phenomenal. He looked
Mm-hmm.
like a top 5 quarterback. And then last week, I mean, he just looked lost. I think San Francisco obviously has a tremendous defense. They have Pro Bowlers at every level of their defense. Um, and as far as the Cowboys defense goes, yes, they schemed really well, uh, but Micah Parsons couldn't get anything going against Trent Williams, and that to me is huge. If Trent Williams can keep Brock Purdy clean, they're really hard to beat. So yeah, the Eagles are definitely going to be watching the film. They're going to figure out how Dallas was able to get around those things and still get pressure on him. But yeah, Brock Purdy, he does get a little quick-footed though. I will say that. I'd like to see him stand a little stronger in the pocket. He likes to move around a little more than I'd like to see because you can get away with that against Dallas. I think the Eagles defense is a little bit better. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't know how confident I am in my Super Bowl prediction at this point, but we'll see. Either way, thrilled to see Dallas out of the playoffs. I would lose my shit if it was Dallas Philly. I'd lose my shit. I'd probably get a replacement to do the show this week, so I wouldn't have to talk about it. Not I wouldn't
Yeah,
cancel it. I would just get someone to fill in for me. Um, because yeah,
substitute.
that would just be awful. Yeah, substitute podcaster. Yeah.
Or in kickball, it's known as a babysit. A babysit.
Ah, the babysit. Yeah,
That's right.
babysit that base. All
We
right.
do have our conference round coming up tomorrow. The final four getting things kicked underway at 3 o'clock Eastern time. The first game is going to be the San Francisco 49ers headed to Philly, take on the Eagles. Did you see real quick what the 49ers fans did in Philly? I thought it was pretty funny. I just
No.
read this on my news feed. Some Niners fan threw a 49ers shirt over the Rocky Balboa statue.
Nice. That's awesome.
That was really cool. I was like, all right, good. I like this. I like it.
I, I will
What?
say this though. One thing that's actually going to be a factor in how I make my picks for this weekend. Bulletin board material, man. Like I really don't love when you can put something up that'll get the Eagles fired up, right? And that's something that might go into the locker room and get those guys ready to roll. But it is hilarious, and I'm glad they did it. Um, but yeah, it makes me a little nervous for the 49ers. Just you never want to give a team an extra edge when they don't need it. Philly is as good as anybody in the league, so yeah,
I don't know if
don't
that
love it.
constitutes as bulletin board material, though. I mean,
It,
that's just
it
all in. That's all in good fun.
yeah,
It's a
that's a
gag.
fan. That's a fan having fun. That's a
Yeah,
fan having fun, right? I totally get
it's a
that,
good bit.
but it is. It is.
This one, as it stands right here, right now, Eagles favored by 2.5. Over under sitting at 46. Um, I'm going, of course, with the Eagles. I mean, they were my NFC champion pick early in the season or mid-season. When you saw how the conference was unfolding, and they just looked hands down the class of the NFC. Now they are playing their toughest opponent yet in the 49ers. I think being in Philly will help them a lot in this game, not having to travel cross country. And coming off of that big win over the Giants, I think there's a momentum boost there and a confidence boost for them. I expect to see a high scoring game. I like the over 46 in this one, and I do like the Eagles to cover the spread at 2.5. Um, but you know, the way these teams have been playing, I wouldn't be surprised if we see numerous lead changes in this one, and I can hope that the Eagles lose because of course I don't want them to go to the Super Bowl, but it wouldn't be a complete shocker if the 49ers won and did it. I mean, the biggest shocker there would be rookie Mr. Irrelevant leading his team through the playoffs into the Super Bowl because I don't think a rookie quarterback has ever started in a Super Bowl. I know rookie quarterbacks never won a Super Bowl, but I don't even think one started in a Super Bowl unless you can pull one out of your
Uh,
ass.
Ben Roethlisberger, did he go?
He
No,
he
he
was that was
goes
his
his
second
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 year.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, then I don't think it's ever happened. And I'll be honest, I don't think it's gonna happen. I'm actually going
Oh,
against. I'm going against my bracket, and I
okay.
think Philly pulls it out. You said it, dude. The momentum coming off that Giants game. Those guys are riding high. I think that they can put enough pressure on Brock Purdy to get him into his happy feet zone, and I think that the streak of him not turning the ball over is going to come to an end against this defense. Not on the road. Philly fans are ruthless, right? I just don't know if he can do enough. And I think Shanahan, obviously, if there's one coach that I would trust to get a young quarterback ready for a game like this, it's him, right? But I don't know. I I just don't feel like it's gonna happen. And I think Jalen Hurts is playing so good right now that Philly is the only team that I can see matching up as far as a roster in terms of just studs at every level is Philadelphia, even more so than Cincinnati or Kansas City,
Mhm.
right? Cincy and Kansas City obviously have better quarterbacks than either of these teams, but I think in terms of the depth of roster, Philly matches up with San Francisco, and I think they have the better quarterback and they're home. So based on what I saw last week, I'm flip flopping a bit, and I'm going to go with Philly, but I will take San Francisco and the points just so that I can kind of stick with that, right? I can say, hey, I stuck with my guys, picking them with the spread because I do think it'll be an extremely close game. I don't think either team blows the other team out of the water. It's going to be a really close game. I might buy an extra point, get that up to 3.5, but either way, close game. I'll take San Francisco plus 2.5. And as far as the over under goes, that line is so good. I
It's good.
wouldn't trust it
It's a
because
sneaky one.
it feels like a 21-24 type game, and that's 45, and the line is 46. So I guess under if I had a gun to my head, but man, I don't know. I don't trust it. So I would stay away from that over under. But I'll take San Francisco and the points just to keep things interesting around here.
All right. Well, I, as I mentioned, do like the 2.5 for in Philly's favor. I'll go with the final score. I'll say 27-23.
Okay. I like it. I'll go 23-21 Eagles. So the Niners cover, but the Eagles move on.
All right. Cool, cool. We'll add that to the Brash archives right there. The second game and final game is the Cincinnati Bengals headed to Arrowhead. I've heard people have been calling it Burrowhead. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's some bulletin board material right
Oh
there.
yeah, oh
That's
yeah.
real bulletin board material.
But here's how Joe Burrow's looking at it. He didn't give a shit. You can bring all the bulletin board bullshit you want. Joe Burrow, he has got his cigar sitting in his locker waiting for him. And when they come back after winning this game, that's right, I'm picking the Bengals. Um, he's going to light that thing up. He headed to his second consecutive Super Bowl. And it's absolutely amazing to see how he has completely single-handedly transformed that franchise. I mean, what a fucking pick for Cincy getting Joe Burrow. I mean, obviously he was hands down everybody's favorite in that draft,
Yeah.
but just how quickly he's just been able. It's like you think the guy. You watch him play, you think the guy's been in the league for 10 years, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He was like consensus best quarterback in that draft, but there were still doubters. There was still like, is he
There's
worthy of the
always
number one
doubters.
pick?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, except for Trevor Lawrence, right? Trevor Lawrence was like Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck, where it was like, oh yeah,
that's true.
that's the number one pick and should be and take them without question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow was far from that. It was, oh, do you trust this guy? And oh, is he worth a number one? Oh, and obviously he is. He's phenomenal. Um, I'm taking the Chiefs though. I think that the I
Ooh, all
think the
right.
Bengals are getting a little too cocky, a little too big for their britches, and they're talking shit, calling it Burrowhead. The Chiefs are underdogs at home. I think that the Chiefs are going to come ready to play. And again, I think that it's not necessarily going to be on the back of Mahomes, right? Or the back of Kelsey, which is very shaky right now. I think it's going to be that defense that people are sleeping on, the Kansas City defense. I think they get a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow. I think they sack him at least 5 times. And I
Wow.
think I think they figure out a way to do what Buffalo didn't do, right? which is take advantage of that offensive line that is down bad. And they're at home. They've got a tremendous home field advantage. They've got everybody in the world is picking the Bengals, which makes me believe that Kansas City is going to win this game. And I'm sticking by them. I'm sticking by the boys. I think they do it against all odds. And I like them to cover. I'm gonna put some money on Chiefs money line. I'm gonna take them with the points, and I don't know what the line is for over under, but I think it's an under. This one reeks of an under because you have two high powered offenses, and it's just not going to play out the way people think it's going to play out.
Yeah, the over under is 48. Kansas City favored by 1.5 points. Yeah, I mean, that's the Roger Goodell Bowl right there, man. Andy Reid
Yeah,
against his former team.
I
Uh,
know.
that's we all know what Roger Goodell will be doing if that happens.
We can't talk about it on air,
No, I
but
don't even
use your
like to think
imagination.
about it, but
No,
we all
making
know.
me violently ill just
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Yeah, I just looked it up because I didn't really peg the Chiefs as a big sack machine, in the defensive side of the ball. But I was wrong. They actually are number 2 or finished number 2 in the regular season with total sacks,
Yeah,
only behind Philly. Get this, Philly finished with 70 sacks on
I
the
know.
year.
Yeah.
70 sacks. And the Chiefs finished with 55. That's number 2. So
Yeah. Dude,
wow.
I know. I'm telling you, that defense has been slept on. Chris Jones is as good a defensive lineman as there is in the NFL, and nobody talks about him. So I don't know. It's mostly a gut feeling. Uh, there's really no logical reason to pick the Chiefs right now, but I really just feel like they're gonna pull it out. They're gonna gut it out. They're at home. They're sick of hearing about the Bengals. They've lost to them 3 times in a row, including last year in this exact same spot. So I like the Chiefs. I'm gonna stick with those guys um, until they lose. They're my guys. So
I
there we
do
go.
think I'm not reading too much into this ankle sprain for Mahomes. I do think it will have a tremendous impact on this game. It takes a lot out of their playbook because a lot of what the Chiefs are able to do, and with Andy Reid's play calling, is he'll do the boot, and he'll see if it's usually Travis Kelce who's wide the fuck open. But if not, he's getting double covered and there's somebody else. But if he doesn't see anything, he has that third or fourth option to start making a run for it. And that guy could pick up 13 yards like that. But in this game, not so much. Now, will we see him run? Absolutely. I don't think he's going to simply eliminate that part from his game because he's a bit injured. And again, they're going to inject him with something, so he's not going to be able to feel the pain.
Yeah,
But there is a fear there that shot it could aggravate it, and then we're talking about potentially hurting himself for next season, the beginning of next season. So, I think that will be in the back of Mahomes' head throughout the game. I think the only way the Bengals lose this one is if they slip up, if they just do things that are just out of character for them in these past 14 weeks, which is turn the ball over multiple times, and just make some stupid mistakes that give the Chiefs easy scoring opportunities. I don't see it happening. I mean, regardless of whether or not Mahomes were injured, I still would be picking the Bengals here, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. It's going to be a tight game. I'll give Cincy a 3-point advantage here on the victory. I'll go with the finals. I mean, what was the over under on this one? Over under
48.
was 48. Um, fuck yeah, I stayed fuck far away from that. But I guess for this, I'll go 30-27 Bengals.
Okay. I'm gonna go 26-17.
Ooh, okay.
I think they hold them to 17 points.
Now, obviously, I'm going well over the over, but still, that's just me throwing a score out there. I
Sure.
still would
Hey.
stay far away from that over under.
Yeah, and if the Bengals win, I will be the least surprised person in the world.
Both
right?
of these games could go either way. That's what makes it so
Absolutely.
interesting. Okay,
Dude, I haven't been this hyped up for NFC and AFC championship matchups in a long time. I think these are as good as it gets, man. Again, the four best teams. It's not about who got hot at the right time or whatever. These are without a doubt the four best teams, and I don't even think it's relatively close. Like,
dude, you think you're hyped now for these conference championship games? You just wait until the NFL Pro Bowl games the following weekend.
dude, I can't. I was thinking about that this morning. Next week's show is going to be fucking lit. Just Pro Bowl talk. We have been waiting all year for it.
Luckily, you set aside your 2 hours for that, right?
Absolutely.
There's so much to break down there.
I set aside 3 hours in case it runs long.
Okay, that's smart. I like that.
You should do that too,
I
because it
know.
almost certainly will.
Well, as soon as we're done with this recording, which is coming up soon, seeing as how you and I forgot to put our parlay together, I'm gonna have to get started on next week's hit list. Just all about. It's gonna be like 13 pages long on the 2023 Pro Bowl games. Now, just real quick about the Pro Bowl, it is funny. We're gonna at Brash Sports will be 1 year old in about 16 days.
Something like that, yeah.
And it was our first or second episode where we were just throwing out ideas about what they can do with the Pro Bowl. We nailed it. We said there should just be a skills competition and a flag football game, and they were listening, and they made it happen. So we are going to get our wish, and I do think the skills competition will be fun to watch. I'm sorry, I'll tune in.
It always is. I mean, if you if any listeners out there really want to know our thoughts on the Pro Bowl, go back to the first or second episode of Brash Sports and take a listen.
It must have been the first. It must have been the first episode.
I think it must. Yeah,
because it happens before the Super Bowl, and our first episode was literally the day of the Super Bowl. So we were cutting it close.
Real close.
Yeah, you should have known right from the first episode what type of podcast you were tuning into. I mean, these guys,
for sure,
they take it seriously, which is why they record the morning of. They don't fuck around. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame we didn't put a parlay together, because I was thinking of doing something a little. Obviously, we'd have to mix it up a little bit, but finding we each pick one of those for either the two games. Over under in yardage for any particular player in any of the two games. And then I guess there was something else I fucking forgot about.
Well, why don't we do this? All right. For anyone still listening right now, we'll jump off of the podcast. We'll say goodbye. And then right before the end credits, we'll throw up a parlay. We're going to put one in, right? We'll just put up our picks.
There you go.
Yeah.
Dude. And hey, if you are still tuning in, all right, make sure you pay close attention to this parlay.
It'll be the one.
This is it. This is it. We're going to spin $6 into gold here, so you don't want to miss it.
All right,
we're gonna flash it like this. That's it. That's it. You got to pause it. You have to hit pause.
You have to have your just finger on that pause trigger and hit it at the perfect time.
Oh shit! All right, well, cool, buddy. I think that's good for NFL Conference Championship weekend. I'd say that's pretty solid. We're just right around the 45-minute marker, and that's typically where we want to be anyway. So.
Who's counting? Right?
Not this guy. Not this guy.
Either. All right, buddy.
All right, my friend. Well, thanks once again. Exciting football. I'm sure I'll be talking to you a lot tomorrow, and let's get ready for the Super Bowl.
Do the damn thing.
And the Pro Bowl. All right. Peace.
Dollar, 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 ching, ching, bling, bling, cut the chatter. You ain't talking money, then your talking don't matter. Ching, ching, bling, bling, patent pockets. We take the dollar, dollar, can a damn soul stop it. Here comes the new kid on the block. Hold on your bets, here's where the buck stops. See, first of all,